And welcome to the Write Club podcast, where we take you behind the pages and into the fascinating world of writing. I'm Beth, and I'm joined, as always, by my co host, Mary. Hi, Mary, how are you?
Hi Beth, I'm good, thank you. Today we're joined by Zoe Apostolides, author of The Homecoming. Zoe wrote an article for the November issue of Writing magazine about haunted houses and supernatural fiction, and it's been the perfect book to read this Halloween week.
Yes, Zoe was born in South London in 1990. She began her career in magazine and newspaper journalism after graduating from the University of Oxford and has written for a variety of print and online media, including the Times Literary Supplement. She has written several works of nonfiction, including End of Innocence, published by Independent Mardle Books in 2022, and The Homecoming is her first novel.
Hi Zoe, welcome to the Write Club podcast. Where are you joining us from today?
I am joining you from London, specifically South London in Brixton.
And is that your writing place?
It is, yeah, it is. We've been working hard to make it into a proper kind of like an office now, because before that I was mostly writing on my laptop on my lap. So now I have a desk and a nice window to look out of, and it's been great. It has made a difference, I have to say. Having a little space to actually get on with it. It's the first time in my life I've ever had an office. It's great.
Oh, lovely.
It's nice to be able to as well shut the door on that when you're not using it and giving
Exactly.
yourself that balance of that's when I'm in here, it's pure focus, work time, get right in. And then as soon as you shut the door, it's like, okay, you can kind of forget about it for a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. I'm very lucky. And it's a great place to, as you say, shut the door and just get on with it. And nothing else really happens in here apart from that, which is good.
Oh, brilliant. And we really enjoyed reading The Homecoming. But would you be able to give us a brief overview of the story for our listeners?
Yeah, of course. I'm really glad to hear that you both enjoyed it. It's the story of a young woman called Ellen who travels to a really remote location in the north of England, specifically Northumberland, and her job is a ghostwriter. So she's been commissioned to write the life story of an elderly woman called Catherine Carey. She doesn't know very much about it before she gets there, and when she does eventually meet her host, it takes a little bit of time, but when she does meet her host, the older woman's behavior is quite erratic. Ellen begins to do the interviews with her, which she needs to do to sort of get the story of the woman's life. And through those interviews, we see this kind of desolate house unfolding during the conversations, and it also enables Ellen to sort of reflect on her own life, and particularly a changing relationship that she has with a sort of childhood best friend. And it's mostly focused on those conversations between the two women, one very young and one much older, and the bond that develops between them in this, as I say, quite desolate, unfriendly, inhospitable sort of place.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. In the article you wrote for us, you mentioned an interest in how a physical space can mirror a physical decline, which is one of the themes within The Homecoming. We, the reader, compare the dilapidated interior of Elver House with the onset of dementia in its sole inhabitant, Miss Carey, as you mentioned. It's really effective. Where did the idea come from?
So I've worked as a ghostwriter for many years, and I'd worked for mostly private clients doing autobiographies and sitting with them for often long periods of time and hearing like the fragments of their lives being put together by them, but also, all the things that they didn't say as much as what they did say. But for me, the real inspiration for the book came pre-lockdown when I was doing interviews with my own grandma. So I didn't realize at the time how much that was going to impact me or how affecting I would find it. So speaking to her about her life over the same sorts of hours as I'd had with other people really really brought home to me how important these stories are of ordinary lives, quote unquote ordinary lives, and the fact that they can be lost when the person themselves is lost. And I wanted to kind of create an environment at Elver House, which is the name of Catherine's house, that mirrored that sort of physical decline and how difficult it might be for someone trying to put all of that together, when the person themselves doesn't really seem to want it. So Ellen's left wondering why she's even been called here in the first place. But at the same time, she wants to help and protect this elderly person. And that's definitely something I've found with both my own grandmother, but also working with other older people, you want to try and get it right for them. But memory is really tricky. So that's where the idea kind of came from.
Oh, that's fascinating. I didn't realize that you'd actually worked as a ghostwriter yourself. Yeah, wow. I loved all the imagery in the book, in particular the descriptions of the eels that thrive in the stream by the house. The house and the surrounding village derive their name from the eels. And I just wondered where the idea for the eels came from, because they're just perfect for that sort of quietly disturbing feel that the book has.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to have a brook cutting through the estate, which would be like a kind of a physical and figurative boundary. And rivers are very unpredictable, dependent on weather. We can swim in them, but they're also dangerous at times. And so within that, because I love all things folk horror, and quite often within folk horror stories, you'll have some sort of ethereal or otherworldly animal. And I therefore decided to have some kind of fish in the brook. So I was researching them and quickly found out that they're really mysterious. They have these amazing migratory patterns. They breed and die in the Sargasso Sea, and they then come to Europe in the middle of all of that, and they sort of completely transform and change themselves. And no one really knew anything about them until about 20 years ago. Technology then enabled us to know more. So yeah, they're kind of symbols of adaptation and mutation, and they switch from salt water to fresh water. And they're also a sort of symbol of, the human threat of climate change, because their numbers have decreased so much since the 80s. And I thought that that would be an interesting way to explore a life cycle, and like the way some people's life cycles are sort of predestined, and also to kind of use that as a symbol for Ellen herself, because I hoped through this book she would have a character arc that showed some level of maturity by the end, an acceptance of herself and others' life choices, perhaps.
I really loved the addition of the eels kind of in the throughout the novel. I thought that they played played a really important part throughout the whole book, and it definitely helped to set the scene. And I learned so much about eels. I had no idea that they traveled so much throughout their lifetimes and then went back to where they started to die. I just found that absolutely fascinating. It's absolutely crazy, yeah. And I love the imagery throughout the book as well. I feel like I could really picture Catherine's house, and I could really picture the little rustic town that they were living in, very small town vibes. Everyone kind of knew everyone, and it was, if I feel like if you set that, like, I don't know, maybe in summer where somebody was living in a different house, that could be a really nice small town cozy kind of novel. But the way that you set it in that house and the descriptions that you used, it really helped the tenseness, I think, throughout the book. And for a book that's just less than 300 pages long, I feel like you really got everything across that you wanted to as well, whereas somebody could have written that book and added an extra couple of 100 pages if they wanted to, and it would have still been a great book. But I feel like you really aced the length, and I sped through it so quickly.
That's so nice to hear. I mean, that's partly because that mantra that people tell writers, and particularly writers like me just starting out, people say write what you know and write the book you like, and I am not fantastic at reading long novels, so I think it was always going to be quite short, and hopefully maybe as time goes on I would try to write something slightly longer, or but I think, yeah, in the first part it is about getting down what you want to get down, and doing it, like trying to do it efficiently, not kind of having a really bulky 120,000 word book, which I think is quite intimidating to edit besides anything else.
And there's so much in there as well, because you've also, as you said when you were describing the book, there's the other story of Ellen's friendship and how that's changing and evolving. That is such an interesting storyline within the book as well.
I'm really glad. Yeah, it was important. It wasn't something that I initially set out to write about, actually. But I wanted, rather than have Ellen as the protagonist who's just reacting to things. I wanted her to have an arc of her own, and I think bringing in sort of elements of the change that people often experience, and women particularly experience in their sort of, you know, between late 20s, early 40s and beyond. There's that sense of friendships that were once kind of running on parallel lines, changing and shifting. And I think that through listening to Catherine, the older lady, she would kind of hopefully realize how free her life has been to date, but that friendship isn't a given, is not a right, and you do have to sort of work at it as well. And I think hearing that Catherine was so friendless and so alone was something that spurred her on to realize what she did have, and perhaps try and sort of be a little kinder to the different choices that we all make all the time, particularly as we grow older. And I wanted that friend to be able to give her side of the story and her side of the friendship a little bit. So in the kind of later stages with conversations that they have.
Definitely. And it also, you know, the ebb and flow of a friendship over a long period of time as well, going back to the sort of all the watery themes. Yeah, I
Yes.
really loved it.
Yeah, exactly.
Am I right in thinking, I know you've mentioned it a little bit, but the book was written at least partly during the COVID lockdowns, and that was where the theme of the isolation kind of came from?
Yeah, partly, definitely. That during the COVID lockdowns, I started transcribing the interviews I'd done quite a few years before with my grandma. So that was amazing because obviously we weren't allowed to see anyone, and particularly not allowed to see older people. So sitting there listening to her voice on the tapes and writing it all down, right, that was an amazing way of connecting at that time. And yeah, it came about. It definitely that those themes of isolation and loneliness were definitely added to by that sense of life being on pause and kind of giving us all that weird sense of, right, where are we? What are we doing? Probably giving us too much time to think. And I think probably a lot of people turn to trying to kind of bring something creative out of that, because otherwise, as we all did, you sitting around watching TV all the time, at some point you have to do something else, you know. And I think that, yeah, that was certainly something that helped me bring a focus to the days during the lockdown. But I was working on it for a little bit of time before that, and obviously quite a bit of time afterwards. So
it's made me really want to write my grandma's or my nana as well, all of my grandparents, write their kind of life story as well, because I just, it's not something that I've ever heard of before, and I think it's such a great idea to be able to actually give somebody that you love like a whole entire book about themselves, so that can be kind of passed on in generations. So yeah, I didn't even know that was a thing. So
yeah, it's an amazing thing, and it's such a privilege to be able to do it, because first and foremost you get to be really nosy. You ask all sorts of questions of people that maybe they haven't asked themselves, or as an outsider often as well. If you're not doing it for a family member, you get into by definition, the conversations they're not kind of small talk, they're quite deep, and you're asking people to reflect on periods of their life that might have been painful. But I think also, like for older people especially, what was important to me in this book is giving that person like a platform. So we don't often, people really relegate older people's experiences. They don't, you know, society values older people in a completely different way to the way it values youth. And I think that giving someone the space and the time to talk about their own experiences, and also the surprises that can come through that, realizing that someone in their 90s is incredibly progressive maybe, or like has views on things that you would just not have assumed perhaps. I think that's really important and really good, and we don't often do that. So yeah, I mean, I love working with older people for that reason. It's full of surprises, and yeah, at the end of it they have something they can pass on forever and reflect on. Like people who were born in the early 20th century, their lives like couldn't be more different to ours in a way that maybe wasn't the case in previous centuries. Like everything's changed. So yeah, that's another really interesting reason to do it, like a social history.
So capturing those small moments of a life, like I absolutely loved there's a piece of writing where you say, the pub at 8, our favourite, hoary and smelly, and apparently washed with each night with Pritt stick. And that captured like a memory of a pub for me. Like I felt like I'd been in that pub. And it's just those small moments that you can't really describe to someone. You have to, like, it's just so evocative, that piece of writing. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you be able to tell us a little bit about your route to publication?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, I've been working as a ghostwriter. I've worked in journalism, and I work as well doing editorial work for a literary agency. So once I finished this book, I gave it to the head of that literary agency, called Lisa, and she read it and said that she liked it, which was great. And you don't really know what to expect, obviously, like with writing generally. It's such a private, can be such a solitary thing, and you don't, especially when you're new and starting out, you have no idea whether the thing you've written is in any way good or not. And sometimes with publishing, that doesn't even really matter, because it's all about the market and what people are looking for at that time. But Lisa sent it out, and she sent it to Salt, my publishers, who that was one of the best days of my life, getting that message that that they wanted to publish it. And I was so thrilled. I'd read a book some years ago that was published by Salt, and I'd loved it, and I loved what they did with the cover design, and the editing was fantastic, and the whole experience couldn't have been better. But it still doesn't feel real. I think that's, you say the route to publishing, I still can't really believe that that's a thing, like that it happened. So it's such a privilege. I'm so grateful for it. And yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. You can tell kind of how passionate and excited you are by the whole process. And I was actually going to mention how much I loved the front cover of the book. I found it really interesting. And obviously you had the eels kind of incorporated in there as well, and also the header of each chapter as well. I had the little eel underlined.
So beautiful. Yeah, I love that too. I really love that. I love the font, the typeface, the way, yeah. And when I first saw the cover, I think, yeah, that was another really amazing moment, because it's I mean, covers can be all sorts of things, and again, they're kind of dictated by the market and what people are sort of looking for and looking to buy. And I think that this really it had so many elements to it that showed like an enthusiasm for the book. And I don't know, as a designer, like you were saying you did design before. I think I as a writer, I've got no idea what works and what doesn't, so I didn't really know what to expect with it, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, but it looks a certain way, doesn't it? It's very unique, and it's also, I don't know, it's very cool. I like it.
It kind of matches the jumper that you're wearing now. I'm
I
wearing.
know, maybe I've dressed particularly for it. Is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you can tell us a little bit about?
Well, I've finished a book that is set in the 70s, so set during the 3-day week when electricity was being rationed. And it's another sort of horror adjacent story about an elderly man who works as a projectionist at a cinema. And he gets increasingly strange visits from a group of people who have been inspired by the sheer number of horror films that came out in the early part of the 70s. He doesn't know what they want, but they kind of dog him. So he's trying to understand what's happening amid the kind of background of blackouts and post-war Britain and that sort of thing. So yeah, we're waiting to see what happens with that. And yeah, it's a different sort of thing. It's obviously set in the city, it's set in London, which is where I'm from, and it's not in the first person, this one is third person, which was a different kind of challenge totally. Like it's not quite so intimate, but at the same time it allows you to get into the experiences of multiple characters, which is quite useful.
Oh, that's fascinating. Did you know much about that period of time, or was it a lot of research involved?
Well, it's quite a lot of research. I didn't know very much about it. I was really surprised when I first learned that, whenever that was, that I learned that the electricity rationing, that the 3-day week had been a thing in the first place. Like, I find that just mind-blowing and strange. And I wanted to try and incorporate as I said, like the 1970s boom of horror films around that same time. So a lot of it enabled me to do lots of research into my favorite horror films. I'm a big horror fan generally, so there was kind of a selfish element to that. But yeah, it was quite a lot more research than The Homecoming, because The Homecoming was more of what I would know, because the job itself is my job. Yeah.
Brilliant. We look forward to seeing that kind of coming out. Do you know when roughly you're hoping to get that finished by? Or?
It is finished. It's out on submission at the moment, so we'll see.
Oh, I look forward to reading that one. It sounds right up my street.
Yeah.
And we always finish by asking our guests for a book recommendation. Is there anything that you've read kind of recently that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I read, I'm a big fan of libraries, and I found a book recently in the library it came out about 4 years ago, and it's by Sarah Hall. I really loved it. It was called Burnt Coat, and it's about a sculptor who it's not directly about COVID, but it's about some form of plague that means that people are having to stay in. And she starts an affair with a local restaurateur, a Turkish guy, and they have an amazing kind of relationship, but all against the backdrop of this this crumbling place that she uses both as a studio and as a home. And it, like, for the sense of place alone, I really, really loved it. It's also a very short read, which was right up my street, obviously, but it's incredible. Like the writing, the sense of place, as I say, and the main character, it's tragic. It's really beautiful. I really recommend it. I loved it.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, another one to add to the list.
Oh, that's lovely. So thank you so much for joining us on the Right Club podcast, and we wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Zoe. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning into the Right Club. We hope you enjoyed this episode and feel inspired to keep writing. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at Writers Online, your go-to for writing tips, competitions, and exclusive updates. Plus, you'll never miss an episode of the Right Club. Until next time, happy writing.